Commencement. Welcome to you, the graduating class of 2023. Go Wildcats! Go green and gold! By now, most of you've got your sweaty little mitts on your high school yearbook, and you've made the rounds. The popular ones among you've got the most signatures, a buttload of variations on "To the sweetest person ever, have a great summer and don't ever change." That is scribbled in pen across senior portraits and team photos. And the washouts. You managed to get some pity notes scribbled in your books by some feel-sorry teachers. But what none of you grasp is that you are leaving money on the table. Big money. Look around, why don't you? Anymore, every graduating class has an oddball, at least one. And not to point fingers, but the quiet kid who nobody asked to sign their annual, his signature will be worth a king's ransom in a couple of years. A 1978 Revier annual, for example, if you get your mitts on one with a "Have a great summer" scribbled by Jeff Dahmer, your ship has come in. Or a 1953 Terre Haute Renegade with a "Don't Ever Change" scribbled by one Charles Miles Manson. To buy that book would set you back at least 10 grand. In closing, I just want to nudge you a little. Go seek out the kid who peed brown poop out his butt from bad hot lunch in second grade. That kid is a powder keg. Say that you are sorry that you laugh, and ask for his autograph, just in case. And in closing, may I call your attention to one Stacy Keller, a student who graduated here. Go Wildcats! So far back that she took as her role model Farrah Fawcett Majors, the Charlie's Angel hitched to the Bionic Man, the only angel that most people can name, even if she walked off that show after the first season. But she made a poster to prove that you don't need big boobs. You only need a bright smile and one big nipple. And hair, the blonde strands of which spell out the word sex in a subliminal message down your back. And the world will beat a path to your door. Anyway, Stacy Keller, she knelt at the altar of everything Farrah Fawcett might have counted before Farrah. If a girl got a hickey sucked on her neck, a big purple hickey, or even if she wore a bandage on her neck or wore a turtleneck sweater, that girl might as well find herself a pimp. No boy in good standing was gonna look at her twice. That's where Farrah, wearing her flipped back bangs, comes in. Farrah put an electric curling iron into the hands of every girl in America. Going forward, a girl could show up for class with hickeys, even hickeys with teeth marks, or herpes sore, a big honking HPV on his neck. And she could say it was a curling iron burn. So in that small way, Farrah Fawcett saved the human race. In closing, Farrah was on that show for one season. And if you asked, what's a Charlie's Angel? Nobody will say Kate Jackson. They sure as hell won't say Cheryl Tiegs. It's only Mother Nature that after Lee Majors, she married Ryan O'Neal because they're only the two most beautiful people ever. And as for acting, she made people swallow the idea of her in love with Kirk Douglas, not a young, hot Kirk Douglas or Michael Douglas, but an old dinosaur Kirk Douglas in the film Saturn III, a leathery old Spartacus, where most people found that the killer robot who stuck a needle in Farrah's eye was more doable. Back in the day, America only included two kinds of people. People in the Farrah camp versus people in the Susan Anton camp, with the exception of maybe this one fag who'd side with Bo Derek. But then Susan Anton turned into a Nazi-engineered genetic time bomb who went crazy in the film Golden Girl, while Farrah got abused by an abusive husband, and she set him on fire in a bed. So that's why even you college prep honor students in the class of 2023, you are asking yourself, who's Susan Anton? In closing, rest assured that someday you too will worship the people who were hot when you were hot. Even if they were Magda Gabor or Bess Meyerson. Someday you will go to YouTube and sit through a commercial about age-related macular degeneration and a commercial about arthritis, just so you can watch your favorite Communards video. But not Farrah. All her entire life, Stacey Keller knelt at the altar of everything Farrah, because Farrah Fawcett always stayed the same level of hot as the videos that MTV could only play after 11 o'clock. It might interest you to hear that back in the day, this town suffered a rash of dog disappearances, all of them house pets, sweet breeds such as Jack Russell Terriers and Chihuahuas. Somebody would snatch these dogs out of backyards and out of cars, and then throw these toy poodles into the meat grinder of dog fighting, into a ring in the unincorporated part of the county. They would toss Yorkies and Corgis, nice friendly dogs, into a pit for other dogs to tear apart. The dogs that didn't shred the little dogs, the trainers fed those dogs to the bigger dogs until it was just the biggest, baddest dogs they had left to fight each other. By the time Stacey Keller could grasp what had taken place, her King Charles Spaniel was already torn to shreds. So when Stacey Keller's dog disappeared, she asked herself, what would Farrah Fawcett do? Stacey Keller, who sat where you are sitting and who cheered at Wildcat pep rallies, she brought home a Pomeranian and she set it loose in the backyard. And when some guy lured it to the fence and made a grab for that dog, Stacey Keller jumped out of the lilac bush and she hosed his face with a big can of bear spray, just like Farrah Fawcett would. She dragged this big dummy, blinded by bear spray, into her house, and she got him into her big stone fireplace, and she lashed the headboard of her brass bed across the front to make it into a jail cell right there in her living room, because that's what Farrah had done in her movie. Stacey Keller, who nobody noticed in school and who probably wasn't asked to autograph anyone's yearbook, she got the big blind dummy's phone and she demanded that he unlock it. This guy was shouting false imprisonment and kidnapping. Stacey Keller couldn't give a shit. She asked for the names of all of his dogfighting crews so she could text them, rattling the brass bed bars of his fireplace jail cell. The dummy called her a stupid bitch, and he yelled that him and his associates were gonna come back there and they were gonna pull a train on her stupid bitch ass. And in closing, you need to grasp that Stacey had something that even Farrah didn't. Stacey had this little switch on the wall, and she flipped it. The fireplace made this click, click, click sound, and out came the smell of natural gas. The bug-sprayed dummy shook his brass prison bars, and he scrambled to climb inside the narrow stone chimney, his hands clawing down soot off the bricks. And then the fire caught, and the flames jumped to his bug-sprayed clothes and his hair. You never heard such screams. And just from fear, the dummy, he pissed out the fire. He slapped out the flames on his face, and he broke his teeth chewing on those brass bars. Stacy Keller asked again, nice, how to unlock his phone. She asked the names of his associates. She stood with one hand on the fireplace switch because that's what Farrah would do. Blisters were coming up all over the burned up dummy, coated in soot and piss. Stacy flipped the switch just to put the fear of hell into him. That click, click, click. The guy blurted out his passcode and she unlocked his phone. He begged her, please. She wrote down the names he told her, and she looked up their numbers on the phone. In closing, you'll be happy to hear that Stacy flipped that switch one last time. The burning alive big dummy must have shook the whole house trying to get out. He clawed up the chimney and fell back into the flames. He pissed out and spit and shit and bled so much his blood put out the fire. But Stacy had electronic ignition. Another click, click, click. And he was back in hell, thrashing and scorched with the cooked skin coming off of him against the rough stonework. His eyeballs popped from the heat. And of course the screams didn't go on for very long. The screams didn't go on for long before he sounded like just another animal being killed by just another animal. And in closing, Stacy cleaned out her fireplace and she gave the good bones to her new dog. She texted the first name on her list and texted that he should drop by and help pull a train on some dumb bitch. And she had the bear spray ready. Stacy Keller, she wasn't a patch on Jeffrey Dahmer, but she played a superpower avenging Charlie's Angel, a woman with the power to fake fuck a leathery Spartacus for 2 hours and to bail off a hit Aaron Spelling series after just one season. And that is what separates the Farrahs from the Bo Derricks. And in closing, Stacy Keller worked through her entire list. No more dogs got stolen. Dog fighting disappeared from our town. And in closing, that's what I want for you. For you to be the biggest bitch that kills the big dogs, that kill the littlest dogs. In closing, I want for you to open the windows so the whole neighborhood can hear that justice is being done. And so all the dogs can howl along with those tortured screams. And in closing, whatever life throws at you, whatever problems you face, I want you to ask yourself, why don't you? What would Farrah do? Everyone, please autograph everyone's yearbooks. And in closing, go Wildcats.